Good afternoon, YouTube. We have a very special YouTube video for you today. It is underneath Alcatraz. Now, not everybody's given the opportunity to go under there. It's off limits to the public. It's only granted by the Park Service. I was given permission because I worked in the military prison system, and Alcatraz started out as a military prison. First of all, it started out as a fort. Then they built a prison on top of the fort. And anyway, so the Birdman of Alcatraz never had a bird in Alcatraz. He had a bird in Leavenworth. So I had the opportunity of transferring prisoners into Leavenworth over a period of time. And the last time I asked my commander if I could stay an extra day and get a tour of Leavenworth. And he agreed, and so I got a thorough, in-depth tour of Leavenworth. Okay, so anyway, we were talking about the Birdman of Alcatraz, and I told him I was at Leavenworth, and the park tour guides came around and they were asking me all these questions about Leavenworth. And we were continuing on with the tour, and Sean, one of the parks personnel, came over to me and said, "Hey, you want to see something pretty cool?" I said, "Sure." He said, "How about a tour of the dungeon?" What was the old fort that's underneath the prison. So we were granted a tour, and we went down underneath. And then, now on this tour, we were having some camera issues, but it's so rare to get a camera down there. We only used the one camera, and we were having some issues with the fogging up. I didn't want to stop Sean on the tour, so we wiped our lens when we got a chance. So anyway, I think it came out all right. You might see a little bit of fog here and there, but other than that, I think it's a pretty unique, one-of-a-kind tour. So check it out. Good morning, YouTube. Here we are at Alcatraz. We're docking here. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Doesn't that make us the 8th wonder of the world? Yeah. I still haven't got an email back from them. I don't know what's going on with them. Yeah. But speaking of the world, where are you guys all coming from? France? Oh, bonjour, comment ça va? Where else? Ireland. Burbank? Okay. Southern California? Where else are we coming from?
UK.
Japan, I think I heard. Oh, Michigan. Oh, I think it was Michigan. I'm sorry. Sorry, way off. Okay, I apologize. New Zealand. Oh, Kia ora. Australia. Aussie. Oh, Canada.
Okay, this is where they think the three escaped, if they did escape, and swam over to that island right there. And it's supposed to be 3/4 of a mile away. It is very doable. Several guards have done it themselves. They have an annual swim. It just depends on which way the tide's going. And if we come back around here, and if we look up at the water tower, that was from the 1969 occupation of the island when the Indians came out here and occupied the island for 19 months. They were in protest of the government taking their lands. They occupied the island and offered the government $28 in beads and some other Indian clothing. But it lasted 19 months. But we're hoping the sun comes out here today. Oh, you can see around here, pretty neat place. Here are the prison showers. So they were allowed to shower twice a week. You see, it's quite loud in here. There are a lot of people from all over the world. this was the recreational yard. Prisoners got 5 hours a week here on Saturdays and Sundays. You can see the water tower in the background. Over there was like a baseball diamond where that grass mound is. So they'd play baseball out here. And a thing called Auto Bridge. But today it's home to mostly seagulls.
Now we need to remember our way back.
This up here was the gun gallery. This is where the guns were never allowed on the floor. So the guards with the guns would go up into the gun gallery. And if you look right there, the reason the hook and the keys is the guards on the first floor would send the keys up to the gun gallery for protection. So that way if an inmate did get a hold of them, they couldn't grab any keys. So they can access down all these cell blocks with their guns. Okay, so 181 was the cell that Al Capone stayed in while he was here. I guess he was here for a period of about 4 years. I was talking to one visitor guide. He actually died in his estate in South Florida of old age. So, but this was his cell while he stayed here. Can't get there, but maybe we'll get a better view.
Bar cells were actually the first bar cells that were in the cell house, but they were replaced with the rounded bar cells. And each of these had one key to open the cell doors, each of them, and that the doors would swing outwards, so they had to replace those with the flat iron cells that were, or not the flat iron, the rounded cells, so that way they couldn't be broken out of easily. They were tool resistant, as well as having to open all one by one would have been taking a long time. So that's what they had to replace when they installed the newer cells out there. This is VIP Sean taking 2 into the Citadel.
So this is a rear look. We're going to go down in what's called the Citadel, or the dungeon.
And so this Citadel that we're going to be going into, I do need to tell you a couple things. First off, do not touch any of the walls or anything. Everything is, there's lead paint on the walls. So you're allowed to touch the bar and everything like this. Bar is railing to go down there. If you want, that is okay to do. That's completely safe. But then when we're in there, and I'll turn on the light switch and everything like that. So don't worry, we're not going to be there in the dark or anything like that. And I'll open this door. And then also, just watch your head too, because there are some low overhangs as well too. So just mind your head so that way you don't get bumped. So we'll leave that open.
Okay, here we go.
And so we're going to give you some helmets actually, do some harness.
Oh, okay.
So just adjust these. It's just like.
Yeah, I worked in an oil refinery for 20 years.
Okay.
I got it.
Oh,
Ratchet.
Okay. Try to loosen these up. Okay, see if that was up here, which is what had the barracks for the military, as well as all the other kinds of things that were in the weapons that were held here. So just to kind of give you an idea of what was built right here, where the brickwork ends, right up top here, where it turns into like the concrete kind of thing. If this was the 1900s, or the military left after 1909 when the prison was started to be built. But if it was before 1909, that area you see right up there, let me just touch it for 1 second. That would have been the open, that would have been bright blue sky right there. So there would have been, and then right here you would have seen gun slits right here. So infantrymen could just fire right up top there if anybody was to invade, because there was a dry moat as well here too. So that was so that would have been straight facing right up in that direction. But as we continue on, you'll see more of that kind of same stuff with the gun slits and everything like that. But we've actually had to do a lot of restoration work with this area specifically because it was the Citadel was in danger of being lifted up because of like the wear and tear and everything. So they had installed these giant cylinders to try and keep it held up, kind of thing, in a way. And so you can see that some of them were, this one we did restoration work was done in 2003. There's like that little key that shows that thing right there in the corner. But then the original brickwork looked just like this actually. It was basically cement with concrete covered over it, or the brick was covered in concrete, which was kind of very faulty, very loose. And then some of the walls were rusting and corroding like that kind of thing. So it was definitely falling into disrepair, but we've done a lot of work since then to make sure it's stable. And these four, I apologize. These would have been originally just like storage areas for the military, like supplies and everything like that. On the other side of this bricks, there was actually water cisterns actually too, but then they actually used this actually during the Bureau prisons too. When the Bureau first opened up, I don't know, are you familiar with Henri Young? Henri Young, he was, have you seen the movie Murder in the First?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was him. Oh, Kevin Bacon plays Henri Young, so that was the main character in that movie. And he was actually in one of these this was like the dungeon, because I mentioned to you earlier, but this was a cell actually. So they actually had a cell, straight cell that they were actually forced to stand up during the daytime actually. So they were shackled to the thing, and Henri Young believed that he was underwater, which he was pretty much correct, because like I mentioned, this below is right behind that brick wall is the water cistern. And then they would have been sent out here because during the beginning of the prison times, the rule of silence was a key important thing to in the cell house. That if you were speaking with when it was during the quiet time, something like that, you had to be you couldn't talk to your neighbor in the cell above, and during this, when you ate your meals, you couldn't talk or anything like that. And anybody who was rowdy or maybe violent, they would have been sent down here before D-block to solitary confinement cells, wherever put in actually. So these were the solitary cells basically. And so similar things too. And then also down here you see that the Native American occupation actually, which you didn't hear about in your audio tour, they actually had departed the island for 18 months, and they did inscribe with their names and their other things of that nature. And so here's some more of that in a way too as well. And you can actually step inside these and everything, just don't touch the walls or anything. But you can see, like for example, there's some of these things that, like there's 1887 Albert, 1889. Some of these are just like some of these been here for over 100 years almost. So and then you see like right above here and everything there's the some of the political messaging that's inscribed on the walls.
This is really cool, Sean. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem at all. So we'll make our way down this little area as well too. So this is the area we're going to be going to. Just watch your head, because some of this like right above here is where it's a little bit lower and everything. So at the very beginning of the prison time, they actually there was a toilet there that they had used for those cells right there. But then it was all used with flushed with salt water. So that made things rust very easily, like you saw in another thing. But then that's another example of how much it was rusting actually. That's one of the water pipes for the water going down. And all the keeping environmental aspect of it alive at that time, and that everything, all the waste and all the garbage would have been flushed right into the bay actually. So that was very kind of like fearless in a way.
I can see what you mean about what's your head on the roof, but I'm a short fellow, so.
Oh, and then this area we're coming across is actually kind of very interesting in a way too. Is that this area? I don't know if you see right where my flashlight is pointing. There's like that little drawing of the woman on the wall there.
Yeah.
Can you see that? Okay, yeah. So that was so during the military time. Of course, the Civil War never came out here to Alcatraz, so that was a really boring time out here. So I guess to pass the time, some of the soldiers would have been just doing leisure activities in a way. So that would have been what they drew there. But then the other part of this area is this little room right here onto the left-hand side. When it was the military prison, that was actually one of the solitary confinement cells there too. So the cells that we saw, those other ones that we saw over in the where Henri Young was locked in, that was during the bureau prisons. But during the military time, we can assume that this was a solitary confinement cell because there's no windows and it's like pitch black in there. It's a small room, and we don't really know much about all the details what life was like specifically in that. But it was during like a minimum security prison, so there wasn't that many people that they had used that for.
Great.
I guess measure how much the stuff was increasing up, so they had to this instrument they used was important to make sure that if the Citadel was and the cell house was being raised up too much, so that way they know how to fortify it with those the concrete cell things that we did. But then the other thing I wanted to mention is the brickwork. Do you see the difference between this brickwork compared to that brickwork?
Yes.
Okay, what do you see what major thing do you see that stands out, I guess, in a way?
I guess this looks a little neater, a little newer, and that looks a little older.
Sort of in a way. This one was actually used by the Masons, used during when the Citadel was first being built by the military, before the prison was ever thought of or anything like that. That's those are masonries and everything like that, professionals and everything like that. But then when the bureau prisons was taken over and the U.S. military actually constructed the actual cell house above, but when they tore down the Citadel, except for this foundation that was right below where we're at, and then they had the inmates work on the cell house, and that's what they did right here. So of course they weren't as skilled as a professional mason like these guys were over here, but they used this, so you can tell that's a little bit sloppier in a way. So this is what they used to construct the rest of it like this way. And so we just got some loose rocks and stones right here, so just be careful of that right here. And so you would add 4 more of these storage areas that were used during the military time, but then it was also used during the bureau prisons too for solitary confinement cells. But one thing is that I think they're refurbishing this area, so I don't want to step in here. Because if you look right there on the wall right there, this is, do you see those scratch marks on there, or the lines on the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is Philip Grosser. Those belong to Philip Grosser, and there's 17, I believe, things for how many days he was actually locked down here, actually. And this was his cell specifically. So he carved another line into the wall for each time he had stayed a day here. So that's one thing that we know for how long inmates were actually down here for. It could have been up to 17 days, possibly. And so just to see some more over here. And one thing is that prisoners didn't really know, but is that right down here is just right down here is where they would have actually flushed the stuff from the water, the waste down into the bay right there. So technically, anybody, if they could have made it down here to, are you okay there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, I want to. Okay.
Just a
Oh, okay.
water bottle, yeah.
Oh, it's your water bottle. Oh, okay. I thought you hit. Okay. Is that that would have been where they dumped the waste into the water, and basically someone could have just escaped. Literally, if they had any idea like of how to escape from, they could have just gone out that way and easily right into the bay to escape. A number of the escapes that happened, especially the Battle of 46, which had been confined only in the cell house. So they couldn't escape anywhere in the cell house, but if they had come down here, nobody knew about this actually down here, but if they had come down here, they could have used this as a way of getting out of the cell house.
I can feel the fresh air coming in.
You can feel it. Yeah, exactly.
Great, this is cool.
Goods up to the top, where and of course at the time there was no cells up there. That would have been just more barracks and everything like that. In the current cell house that was there where the cells are at, there would have been just barracks in that area.
So this was during the military time?
This was during the military time, yes. So they didn't use any of this during like this middle area we're in, the middle part of the Citadel. They didn't use it during the bureau prisons. They used just the
What'd they use it for when the prison took over?
The prison, they didn't use any of this area or anything like that. They had their own kitchen and everything like that.
Oh, okay.
So they had nothing here specifically in the Citadel that they used other than just those 3 dungeon cells that we saw.
Wow.
And this would have been the other staircase that the enlisted men would have gone up. So you saw the other staircase that
Right.
the officers would have gone up. So there would the wall right here, this white concrete thing would have been just a wall right here. So there would have been a separating area between the enlisted and the officers specifically. And then they could just carry all these, so they could take the big goods from that little room you just saw all the way up these little stairs and up to the rest of
The mess hall.
mess hall. Yeah, exactly. And the mess hall would have actually been dining hall where you saw at the end of your tour. Audio tour would have been the same dining hall and mess hall as the military. They didn't change that at all. That was still the same.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to stand here,
I'm going to turn off the lights.
and he's going to turn off the lights, and we're going to see how dark this actually was during the day. Because remember, they didn't have lights back then. Yep, that's pretty darn dark.
So the only time they would know what time of day it was would have been the meals when the guards would come by. It would just be like flashing their flashlight and everything like that, and then they would turn it off. And this would have been what it would have been like once the meals would have been served. So they would have been eating their meals in complete darkness, such as what you're at right now. And so this is like Hunter Young and Phil Grosser, who had those markings on the wall. This is what they had it like when it was as a when they were down here in the Citadel, during the dungeon, and that the solitary confinement cells on the audio tour were very similar to this, and that they were pitch black cells as well too. But this was like there was no light coming from anywhere in this area. But yeah, I'll turn on the lights.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Well, that is dark. I wouldn't want to be in this cell when they shut the lights out. So this is pretty cool. So this is military prisoners. If they refused to work, they had to stand in torture cages all day long. And it was this size of torture cage, which was 12 by 23. That's pretty cool. So anyway, I hope you liked that. It was really in-depth, really in-depth. What else can I say? Sean did an excellent job. I want to thank Sean from the Park Service for giving us that tour. Now, while I was there, I picked up this Alcatraz tin mug. This was exactly what the prisoners had back in the day. Other than theirs was made out of tin, this one's made out of stainless. This one doesn't have water or coffee in it. I got something in it else here this afternoon. So anyway, if you liked it, please subscribe, and how about a big thumbs up. Until next time, take care.